The help signal changed everything. It was a message of surrender and also a request for trust. In the council chamber, the arguing stopped. Ambassador Young looked at the word on the screen, then at Councillor Borel. The Grathan's face was a picture of deep shame and dawning hope. "They are asking us," Young said quietly. "Now we must answer. Not as jailers, as neighbors." On the Vigilant, Captain Min-Su saw the signal too. He immediately contacted Earth Central. "The trapped fleet is requesting assistance. They are alive but powerless. I request permission to attempt a rescue operation." The answer from Earth was quick and surprising. "Permission granted, Captain Kim, but you are not a rescue mission. You are a diplomatic one. Your primary objective is to communicate, to learn how to dissolve the barrier without causing harm." On Earth, the celebrations had quieted. The news networks were now showing the help signal. People began to understand. This wasn't a war. It was a terrible misunderstanding, and their own planet had stepped in. The mood shifted from victory to a sober, heavy responsibility. In the Seoul lab, Taiyang and Hana were asked to join a global scientific team. Their job was to listen to Earth. The pulse came from the planet, the head of the team said over the video link. "We need to know if we can ask it to stop. We need to speak back." Hana looked at the data from the deep-sea microphones and the geological sensors. The low hum was still there, a gentle thrum in the background of the world. "It's not a machine we can turn off," she said. "It's more like an instinct." The planet felt threatened. It defended itself. To make it stop, we have to show it the threat is gone. Captain Min-Su guided the Vigilant close to the golden bubble. It was huge and perfectly smooth. He ordered a small shuttle to be prepared. He would go himself with June and an engineer. They would try to make contact. The shuttle flew slowly toward the barrier. On the other side, they could see the dark shape of the Grathan command ship. Min-Su stopped the shuttle a few meters from the golden light. He opened an external microphone. "Grathan vessel, this is Captain Min-Su. We are here. We received your signal. We wish to help. Can you hear me?" There was a long pause. Then a light flickered on the Grathan ship. A manual spotlight, powered by a hand crank. It flashed in a simple pattern, ... The universal code for YES. "We believe the barrier is controlled by a reaction from our homeworld," Min-Su continued, speaking slowly and clearly. "We are trying to understand how to calm that reaction. We need you to understand. We did not do this to you. Our world did, to protect us. And you," the light flashed again. "YES, do you withdraw your threat?" Min-Su asked. "Do you, on behalf of the fleet, promise no further hostile action against Earth or its people?" This time, the wait was longer. Then the light flashed a new pattern, a more complex one. June translated it quickly. "Promise. Fear was our mistake. We are sorry." Min-Su felt a lump in his throat. "Apology accepted. We are working to bring you home." Back on Earth, the global team had an idea. Ambassador Young, still on Cradle Station, was part of it. "The barrier went up because of fear," he said to the council. "It will come down because of trust. We need to show Earth that the galaxy is not a threat. We need a gesture. A real one." "What gesture?" asked the historian Prime. Young took a deep breath. "Disarm. Here, at Cradle Station. Power down all defensive weapons. Open all your data archives to us and ours to you. No more secrets. Show complete, vulnerable trust. If the planet senses that the fear is gone, maybe the need for protection will be gone too." It was a radical, dangerous suggestion. But the sight of their flagship trapped in a golden bubble made the Council desperate. One by one, the species agreed. Across the station, defensive turrets powered down. Shield generators went offline. The security networks opened their access points to the human embassy's computers. On Earth, Taiyang and Hana monitored the planet's hum. As the reports from Cradle Station came in, something shifted. The frequency of the hum began to slow. The golden light of the barrier around the fleet pulsed softly, like a heartbeat. "It's working," Hana whispered. "The planet is listening." Captain Minsu, floating near the bubble, saw it too. The golden light began to thin, like mist in the morning sun. It became translucent, then faint, then it was just a shimmer in the air. And then it was gone. The Grathan ship hung in space, dark and silent. Then, one by one, its running lights flickered on. Its engines remained off. A communication channel crackled open. "Human vessel," a tired Grathan voice said. "We are here. We are grateful." Within an hour, all the trapped ships had minimal power restored. They were not trying to run. They were waiting. A Council transport ship, unarmed, was sent from Cradle Station to retrieve the crews. A week later, a new meeting was held in the Council chamber. Captain Minsu and Ambassador Yong stood together. Before them was Councilor Boal and the Historian Prime. "The galaxy owes you an unpayable debt," Boral said, his head bowed. "We judged you by your shadow, and you answered with light." Yong shook his head. "No debts, only lessons. You learned about us, and we learned about ourselves. We are not the jailers. We are the caretakers of our own history, and now of this new trust." The Historian Prime chimed softly. "The story of Ekyong was incomplete. We had only the middle, where the jailers were fierce. We missed the end, where they chose peace. And we missed the beginning." "The beginning?" Minsu asked. "Yes," the Historian Prime said. "Before they were jailers, what were they? The oldest fragment of the legend, the part we thought was just poetry. It says, 'From the cradle of Ekyong came the builders of sanctuaries. They did not start as warriors. They started as protectors. They built shelters, safe places. The locks and prisons came later, when the threats grew too great. Their first instinct was to protect.'" Yong smiled. It was a sad, wise smile. "Then some things do not change. Our first instinct, when we saw your ships in trouble, was to help, not to destroy. That is who we are. That is who we choose to be." The Council voted again. The Ekyong Containment Protocol was erased from the records. In its place, they created the Ekyong Guardian Pact. It was not a treaty of fear, but of mutual protection. The galaxy would not fear humanity's past, and humanity would use its rediscovered legacy not as a weapon, but as a shield to help protect others, as their planet had protected them. The meeting ended. Minsu walked to a viewing port. He looked at the stars. He thought of the pulse from Earth, the gentle, terrible power that had chosen mercy. They were not the monsters of legend. They were something more frightening and more wonderful. They were the children who had found their parents' old, powerful tools, and their first act was to put them away and offer a hand instead. The galaxy had feared the name Ekyong. Now they would learn to respect it, and humanity would learn to carry its weight, not as jailers, but as guardians of a fragile, precious peace. The terror was gone. In its place was something new, hope, hard-earned, and a quiet understanding that the most powerful lock of all was the one that could be opened by trust. The official Galaxy Council report was clear, concise, and a complete lie. It stated that the human mining outpost on Ceres 7, a rocky moon in a fringe system, had been tragically destroyed by a rogue asteroid swarm. A freak accident, a misfortune of the cosmos. The Council even offered its condolences, a brief, formal message sent to Earth. On Earth, in a secure command center buried deep beneath the mountains of South Korea, Lee Yuna stared at the data. She was not a diplomat. She was a tactical analyst, a former major in the Space Force, and her mind worked in patterns, probabilities, and hard facts. On her main screen was the official sensor log from a Council monitoring buoy near Series 7. It showed the sudden, chaotic signature of multiple high-velocity impacts. It was a convincing fake. On her secondary screen was the raw data, a hidden snippet captured by a dying human sensor satellite before it was vaporized. It was not the messy, random scatter of asteroids. It was the precise, coordinated energy signature of plasma torpedoes. And etched within that energy signature was the distinct harmonic frequency used by the Galactic Council's own peacekeeping fleet. They didn't even try to hide it well, Yuna said, her voice flat. Her hands, resting on the cool console, were perfectly still. They think we're too primitive to parse the deeper harmonics. Or they just don't care. Across the room, Kim Ji-hoon watched her. He had aged in the months since his return from the Council. The calm he had worn like armor was still there, but beneath it was a simmering coldness. They care about perception, not about us. The message is clear. Stay in your lane or be erased, and make it look like an accident. The room was filled with other people. Engineers, intelligence officers, pilots. All of them had lost someone at Series 7. A sister, a friend, a former student. The air was thick with a silent, vibrating anger. But it was a cold anger. The hot, shouting kind had burned out weeks ago, replaced by this quiet, focused intensity. So, we protest? Asked a young officer, his voice tight. Ji-hoon shook his head slowly. We already gave our warning. They laughed. A protest is just more noise to them. Then we hit back. The officer insisted, his fist clenched. A strike on one of their outposts. Show them we can draw blood too. Lee Yuna turned from her screens. Her eyes were dark and analytical. And then what? They have a fleet 1,000 times the size of ours. They have technology we are still reverse engineering. A direct fight is what they expect. It is what they are designed for. We would lose, spectacularly, and they would use it as proof that we are the violent savages they claim we are. She stood up, walking to a central holographic display. With a few gestures, she brought up a star map. Counselor Vale, architect of the sanctions. His species, the Valens, are the power behind the throne. He made the call to attack Sirius 7. She zoomed in on a region of space. He lives here, on a fortified orbital estate near the planet Shill. Constant guard rotation. Planetary defense grids. The most advanced surveillance in the quadrant. She looked around the room. We cannot attack him there. It is impossible. A man spoke from the corner. He had been so quiet, he seemed part of the shadows. His name was Park Min-soo. He was a pilot, but not of the big, loud warships. He was a specialist in stealth and reconnaissance. His voice was as quiet as his presence. So we don't attack the fortress. All eyes turned to him. Yuna gave a slight nod, prompting him to continue. Min-soo stepped forward. He pointed not to Vale's fortress, but to a line on the map, a trade route, a thin blue thread between stars. He moves, quarterly. He goes from Shill to the Council homeworld for sessions. His convoy is impressive. But it is a convoy. It moves through space. And in space, he said, his finger tracing the line, there are shadows. Places sensors do not see well. Places where a small ship, with no weapons and a very quiet engine, could float. And watch. A new image appeared on Yuna's screen. It was not a warship design. It was something sleek, angular, and covered in a matte black material that seemed to drink the light. "The Shrike-class stealth observer," she said. "No plasma cannons. No missile pods. Its only weapon is its silence. Its only shield is that nobody will look for it. It can sit, powered down, in the debris field of a comet for years if it has to." The plan began to take shape in the room, not as a shouted idea, but as a series of quiet revelations. It was not a war plan. It was a hunting plan. "We don't challenge their strength," Ji-hoon said, understanding dawning. "We ignore it. We target their certainty, their sense of safety." "Exactly," Yuna said. Her fingers flew across the console, pulling up files on Vale, on his guards, on his ship's schedules, on the psychology of his species. "We show them that their rules no longer apply, that their technology is not a perfect shield, that the dark between the stars is not empty." She looked at Min-soo. "You will watch. You will learn his patterns, the exact signature of his personal ship, the rhythm of his life. You will not engage. You will just be there." Min-soo nodded once. It was all he ever did. Other teams were formed. Kang Soo-jin, an engineer who had lost her brother on Series 7, was tasked with a different problem. "Their sensors look for energy, for heat, for mass," Yuna told her. "We need to be ghosts. Can you make us ghosts?" Soo-jin, her eyes red but dry, had simply said, "Give me the lab." And the budget. For months, Earth was silent to the galactic community. The Council saw this as surrender. The humans, as predicted, were emotional but ultimately rational. They had been spanked and were now sulking in their corner. Trade sanctions tightened. Human ships were turned away from non-human ports. The galaxy moved on. But beneath the surface, humanity was changing. The shipyards around Mars were not building dreadnoughts. They were building silent, hungry birds like the Shrike. Training was not for fleet maneuvers, but for deep space survival, for patience, for forensic tracking across light years. They studied alien biology, not for medicine, but for understanding. How does a Valen sleep? What does it eat? What are its fears? Kim Ji-hoon often walked through these facilities. He saw a young woman, a botanist, now learning how to identify the chemical composition of alien atmospheres from a distance. He saw a grizzled old asteroid miner teaching pilots how to hide a ship's mass signature within a cloud of space dust. The laughter of the Council had been a seed, and from it grew not a flower, but a deep, spreading root of grim determination. One evening, as the first of the Shrike ships was preparing for its silent departure, Ji-hoon found Lei Yuna in the observation bay, watching the sleek, black shape hang against the stars. "It will take years," Ji-hoon said quietly. "I know," Yuna replied, her reflection staring back from the glass. "But we told them forever. They thought it was a metaphor. We need to teach them the literal meaning of the word." She finally looked at him. "Min-soo and the others, they are the first lesson. They go out not to fight, but to remember, to witness, to prove that no one is beyond our reach. The hunt doesn't start with a bang, Ji-hoon. It starts with a whisper, and with watching." The sleek, matte black hull of the Shrike-class vessel, designated Ghost 1, did not reflect starlight. It absorbed it. Park Min-soo floated in the pilot's couch, his breathing a slow, steady rhythm in the absolute silence of the ship. For one standard Earth year, 3 months and 14 days, he had been a shadow. His mission was simple: watch and learn. Target: Counselor Vale. He had watched Vale's luxurious personal cruiser, the Pride of Shill, make its quarterly journeys from his fortified estate to the Council homeworld. Min-soo had mapped every ripple of its engine signature, every shift in its shield harmonics, the exact number and type of its escort fighters. He knew its preferred jump points. Its captain's habit of speeding up slightly when passing the nebula they called the Ghost Veil. Asterisk. Ghost 1 Asterisk was currently a piece of frozen debris in the high-orbit scrap field near Shill's main spaceport. Kang Shu-jin's engineering genius had made it possible. The ship's outer skin could mimic the temperature and simple radar profile of a carbon-rich asteroid. Its power output was lower than the background radiation of space. To any sensor, it was just another rock.Min-Su watched through passive scanners as the pride of Schill prepared for another routine departure. Escort fighters buzzed around it. He felt no anger, no hot desire for revenge. Those feelings had been burned away during the long, silent months, replaced by a profound and patient focus. He was not a warrior here. He was a hunter studying his prey, and the time for simply watching was coming to an end. A new order, compressed and encrypted, had arrived via a one-time data burst the day before. The word was, proceed half a galaxy away. The mood in the Galaxy Council was one of smug satisfaction. The human problem had been solved with minimal effort. Series 7 was a forgotten tragedy, a footnote. Trade with the upstart species had ceased. Their few attempts to send envoys were blocked. They were contained, isolated, and silent. Counselor Vale often cited them as a case study in efficient policy. Apply precise pressure, he would say to his aides, and even the most volatile elements become inert. The first sign that something was wrong was not an attack. It was a disappearance. A Valen logistics officer named Ka-Athar, who had been the one to formally authorize the plasma torpedoes for the asteroid clearing operation near Series 7, failed to report for his duty shift on a bustling space station. He was not important enough for great alarm, but his security clearance was high. A search found his quarters empty. His personal shuttle was gone from its berth. There was no distress signal, no signs of a struggle. It was as if he had simply decided to leave and had done so very, very quietly. A minor mystery. Then, a week later, the captain of the frigate that had actually fired the volley at Series 7 was found. He was on shore, leave on a pleasure planet. He was found in his rented villa, not dead, but catatonic. His higher brain functions were completely shut down, leaving him in a vegetative state. No toxins were found in his system. No signs of physical trauma. Beside his bed was a small, carved object. It was a piece of old earthwood, shaped into a simple peg with a grimacing face. A Jang-Seung, a Korean guardian pole, meant to ward off evil spirits. A note, written in perfect Valen script, lay under it. It said, "You are not forgotten." Panic, cold and sharp, began to seep into the lower levels of the Valen command structure. This was not how enemies behaved. There was no declaration, no fleet movement, no demand for ransom. It was intimate, and it was terrifying. Counselor Vale dismissed it as coincidence or the work of internal rivals. The human? That squeaking creature? He scoffed in a security briefing. They are hiding in their solar system, licking their wounds. This is someone else's game. Investigate the GRTH. They have always been jealous. But then his own cruiser, the Pride of Schill, returned from its latest council session. It docked at his orbital estate with no issues. Standard procedures were followed. The escort fighters peeled away to their own bays. It was only when a maintenance drone scanned the hull for micrometeorite damage that the discovery was made, etched into the dense, polished alloy of the ship's starboard flank. Directly opposite the main viewport of Vale's private quarters was a single word. It was not burned or welded. The molecular bonds of the metal had been somehow rearranged, as if the ship itself had grown the marking. The word was in the common galactic script. It said, first. Vale stormed into the docking bay, his scales flushed with dark purple rage and fear. He stared at the word. It was clean, precise, and deep. How? He screamed. How did no one see this? Scanners, records. Who did this? The data was reviewed. There was nothing. No unidentified craft had approached the Pride of Schill during its journey. No energy weapons had been detected. No physical object had made contact with that part of the hull. It was impossible. In his command center on Earth, Kim Ji-hoon watched the reports funnel in. The galactic information networks, which humans had been so recently barred from, were not impregnable. They had their backdoors, and human digital hunters, working with the same patience as Min-Soo, had found them. He saw the security images of the catatonic captain. He saw the clear, chilling photo of the word, first on Vale's ship. Lee Eunice stood beside him, a cup of cold coffee in her hand. Min-Soo's work is precise, she said, her voice devoid of triumph. It was a statement of fact. The Jang-Seung was Su Jin's idea, Ji-hoon said. Psychological warfare. Make it personal. Make it strange. Something their logic can't process. It's working, Yuna replied. They are looking for fleets, for hackers, for political rivals. They are not looking for a single silent man in a rock-shaped ship who spent a year learning how they blink. On board the Ghost One, Park Min-Soo was already far away. The etching had been the riskiest part. He had used a tool Su Jin's team had developed, a focused molecular disruptor that worked at an agonizingly slow speed. For 6 hours, as Vale's ship slept in the dark between jump points, Min-Soo had drifted mere meters from the hull, a spider on a stone, meticulously rearranging atoms. It was not an attack. It was a message. A receipt. He now watched a new target, a Valen admiral who had planned the Series 7 operation. The admiral was on a morale tour, visiting frontline bases, showing the flag. He felt safe surrounded by military might. Min-Soo watched his daily routine on a heavily guarded starbase. He noted the admiral's habit of taking a solitary walk in the pressurized arboretum every cycle at 19 o'clock station time. He saw the exact route, the blind spot in the camera coverage near a rare flowering vine from the Valen homeworld. Min-Soo did not move to strike. He simply recorded. He compiled a file, schedules, guard rotations, shield generator cycle times, the Admiral's personal com frequency. This file was compressed, sealed, and added to a growing database back on Earth. It was a dossier for future use. The Galaxy Council was no longer laughing. A quiet, cold fear was spreading. The word first implied a second, and a third. Who was next? The methods were inhuman. There was no glory, no battle, no satisfaction for the hunters to see. Just a silent, inevitable reaching out from the darkness. The humans had not surrendered. They had simply turned away, stepped into the shadows, and started a clock that ticked to a rhythm only they could hear. The hunt was no longer a theory or a threat. It was a fact, and it had begun.